Hey guys, hope you guys had a good week trading. Just a friendly reminder, I will not be around next week. We're taking a family trip to Disney. Next TA should be up probably next Friday, the 14th. All right, so taking a look at here at SPY week or daily, we're going to go through the daily, the weeklies, and then we'll kind of talk about where we could be going. So take a look at the daily here. Pretty much since FOMC, which was on the 22nd right here, we have been in this long upward bull channel right here, just pretty much pushing. After finally pretty much spending 6 days without touching the daily 8 EMA, we did officially touch it on Friday and bounced hard off of it. So with this bounce right here, I do favor the upside potential. However, as you see, we have supply resistance right here at 411 that was established on Monday. So if we can get through 411, then realistically, I do have an upside target of this 414 to 417 area. This would still complete the cup and it could bring the handle back to 405.2. One thing to keep in mind here is I would have liked to have seen a more clean and clear touch of 405.2 support bounce. So you can see like right here, that's what we broke through. We came down and pretty much to the penny touched 405 and then bounced. And the same thing here, we attempted to hold it, but we lost it, and then boom, we came through. Same thing here, we broke over it, but we rejected and then came back down. Here, we didn't quite get the actual fight at 405.2. So we do have potential to come back down there and see that. However, going to the next into Monday, our daily support's right here about 407.7, and then upside you can see we don't really have a limit to where we could go. So I'm more bullish still. We do have CPI coming next week, and as of right now, I see some pretty bullish numbers, and I do expect that CPI could, if the numbers come in as I think they will, give us an upside lift. My only concern with CPI for this week is that one, core year over year is projected to be either unchanged or higher. And I will be pretty curious to see how markets will react to the core. And month over month continues to sit pretty high on core also. So that could actually be pretty negatively taken. And surprisingly, right now, we actually have a 67% chance of a 25 basis point hike in the May 3rd meeting. So that's a little higher than I actually expected it to be honest. But so that's kind of where we're at on the daily here. Now, if we flip over to the weekly, the one interesting thing is that pretty much since we established this weekly supply on February 6th, right here at 411, we have not been able to break through it. I mean, we had last week, we attempted to get through that 410, and I said 411, I meant 410. We had last week, we attempted to get through that, and then we also had this week right here where we attempted to get through it. Now, one interesting thing here on the weekly is that we did close out this doji candle. Now, if we go back here, almost every top had a weekly pop and then a doji. So if you look here, actually the August top and this week's doji are similar pattern. We had this massive push up followed by a doji that then resulted in a reversal down. Now, I do remain bullish. However, from a technical standpoint here on the weekly, this actually is fairly toppy, and this does show that we could come back down. So we do have this really nice 409.4 weekly double top with a doji reversal. This very well could become an evening doji star pattern, which would then lead to a downside, most likely target at least 404, if not 398. However, if we hold our 4-week bull channel here, and more importantly, if we can break through 412.5 right here, this black outlined weekly breakdown triangle that is almost a year old now has a potential to be very explosive. So if we break through 412.5 resistance of this breakout triangle here, we really do have a target of, I would be looking for a retest of this August high right around this 427.5 area. However, if we reject and we do not break through and we come back down, especially if we close under 407.3, then we're going to start thinking about 390 again. We're kind of at an interesting point here in this trading where we don't really have many reasons to look bearish, But the upside potential is limited just because we know how much we have traded in this red channel. Now, looking at futures here, futures was open this morning. It closed around 8:30 a.m. I think it was open a little bit later than that. Probably like, I think it closed around 10:30. It always seems to close later than they say it will. But either way here, same thing. We had this since FOMC, real nice push up here that then resulted in finally a retest of the daily AEMA, and we bounced, and we didn't quite get a bullish engulfing daily candle here like we had on futures, or I'm sorry, I mean like we said I had on SPY, but we did manage to break through the double top as of right now. Now this candle, this daily candle you see right here, this will continue into Sunday night and into Monday. They will not open a new candle. You can see it's already marked Monday the 10th. So one thing to keep in mind here is that if we hold this channel of 41.15, then our upside potential is there. Now, if you go back to this top here in February and even last week, 41.53 is likely to be a major resistance, followed by 41.60. If we can break through 41.53 and 41.60, then our upside target is 41.77 to realistically 41.93, which is the top from the February. However, if we were to lose this support, we should come back down to 40.95, and then eventually we have all these supplies to take out down here. Now, the one interesting thing about futures is that we did, within a point difference, touch 40.95 right here on Thursday and bounced off that. So that is confirmation of support, which should show some upside potential. Now, going over the weekly here, same thing. We have this really strong 41.35 weekly supply, which is resistance, that we are continuing to reject off of. And then we also have another one right here at 41.48, which is just a weekly resistance. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get through this 41.38 to 41.48 level. Same thing with our breakdown triangle here too. That resistance relies right at 41.60. Now here on the weekly, our 4-week bull channel right here, we actually did break support of that. So breaking this support does open the downside, and this is actually starting to look like a really, really nice evening doji star reversal down pattern. So if we start going back down, same thing, 40.95 is going to be our major support. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the JPM collar. So I've talked about this quite a few times before, that historically speaking, 7 weeks post collar roll, which was last week, we find a trend and we stick with it. So that could either be we push up to 4281 area, 4300, which is the collar calls that they sold, or we could have a 7-week drop and target 3860, which is the put they bought. Now, after those 7 weeks, we will generally see a rebound or a retrace. So if we push up, we're likely to retrace. If we push down, we're likely to rebound. Now, the one thing that I will note is probably for the last year, if not longer, on the JPM collars, we have always come within 100 points of the sold calls. So sold calls are at 4,300, which means we realistically have at least an upside potential of 4,200 to 4,300. Now, nothing's guaranteed, obviously, but that is definitely something to keep an eye on and definitely something to watch. So I will be keeping a close eye on that. Now, going over to the VIX here, this is where things get a little interesting. So now, if you look at our last few tops on SPY, and I'm talking about major tops where we had big drops. So the most notable is February 2nd, February 15th, and then March 3rd. All of those are low as 17.06, 18.11, and then 18.16. We are coming in to the spot on the VIX here, which is really this 17.71 to probably 18.2 area on the VIX, that almost all the time is the bottom of the VIX and the top of SPY. So that could mean that this weekly is getting ready to top. So we will watch the VIX closely next week and see if we get this bigger retrace up, rebound up or not. We have not broken below 17.06 on the VIX since pretty much January of 2022. So that's something definitely to keep in mind too, as it's been almost a year and a couple months now since we've been under 17 realistically. So that's what I'm going to be watching. We are still rejecting this daily 8 EMA here in the VIX, which does show downside potential here, but upside potential on SPY. So as soon as this changes momentum and continues, much like we saw back here, we kind of have these little V bottoms basically. That's when we can start looking for a top on SPY. Now, the one thing I will say, if we look back here, and this is very, very important over the next couple months with CPI, FOMC, and whatnot, is that until the markets have a reason to sell, and I've been saying this for a year now, the upside potential is higher than the downside potential. And this, is very well articulated here, where you see we had pretty much 2 days, maybe 3 days of sustained upside pushes on the VIX and downside drops on the market because the fear of the bank runs and financial collapse and stuff was there. However, very quickly over that next week, those fears dropped because the government and the feds all kind of smoothed it over basically. And when they did that, they basically said, okay, never mind, it's fine. And then the market sold off. They no longer had the sustained fear and sustained reason to sell off. That's why back here we had such a big drop and then hard rebound, was because all that fear that was there was gone. Markets need not only a reason to sell off initially, but they more importantly need a reason to continue to sell off. And that's why we're not seeing, when we have these bigger drops like right here, we have in these huge rebounds because we come into these time periods where we have no more reasons to continue to sell off. So that's going to be something that we continue to watch over the next couple weeks here. All right, I hope you guys had a good week trading. Remember, I'm off next week, but I will see you guys on Friday night.